Hello, welcome back. It's Sarah from Roadworthy. As you can see, I'm back home. As you can tell, the weather is changing. I went to Florida and it turned into fall. Yeah, it's getting cold. The rains haven't quite started, but it's getting chilly. And you can see, well, maybe you can see, but the flowers are all starting to. So it's time for me to start doing some of the fall cleanup. But the spiders are crazy. Anyway, so that's what I need to do. Except if you watched my last weekly reads, I had quite a cold starting. And it's not going away. So I've just been really kind of like, ugh. I've been doing a lot of sitting around and knitting and listening to audiobooks. So at least on a reading front, it's been productive. But I did some sewing, but like, again, I'm not getting stuff done that I need to get done. How's that? Anyway, let me hop into the reading. It was a weird reading week in that I had some very reads and then an amazing 5-star read. So let me cut through the first. Barbara Pym. I'm sorry to say it, an academic question. I think I gave this 3 stars, and honestly, that feels a little generous. This was a book written by Pym during her silent period, where she hadn't published anything. She wrote, it sounds like she wrote sort of 2 drafts, one in first person and one in third person, and then had a bunch of notes, and then moved on to writing a quartet in autumn, and never got back to this. So this was published posthumously by and pulled together by Hazel Holt, who it sounds like was a friend and maybe like an editor that she worked with. But anyway, she pulled this draft together, and you know so what is it about? This is about Caro. She's sort of this bored, college educated woman who is married to Alan, who is a college professor. She doesn't work, they don't have children, and she's sort of struggling with, what is her purpose? What, she's an intelligent, capable woman, but yet not really being given opportunity to sort of do anything fulfilling. This is in the 60s. Barbara Pym always feels quaint to me. Even her novels that are published later, they still have this like 40s and 50s vibe to them somehow. This does not have that vibe. Yes, there's still mention of a jumble sale, but there's talk of abortion, women smoking. One of Caro's good friends, Coco, is gay, and his sexuality is actually discussed in the book. So it just that honestly, for a Pym novel, feels really jarring. The other way, this just is not never mind the subject matter, but it also just doesn't have the nuance of a Pym novel. The tone, I always think of Pym novels as having this touch of melancholy to them, and that's just absent in this book. Yes, the humor is there, but it's more overt in your face, less subtle than I think of Pym. And so the character of Caro, she's sympathetic, but that touch of melancholy is just not there. Um, she's not as sympathetic as I would have expected Barbara Pym to make her. So it does feel like an early draft that really doesn't live up to Barbara Pym standards. So I did see someone, let's see on the back here, Vanity Fair says a must for completists. And I feel like that's probably accurate. Like if you want to read all of Barbara Pym, this would be on your list. But if you're interested in just one or two of them, this should not be on your list. Next, I read a short story, Leigh by Elizabeth Gaskell, and this was for Victober. I joined the Seattle Silent Book Club for this one. So there was an event at one of the coffee shops near me. In the Silent Book Club, you all got together and read silently for an hour. And then if you want to stay and socialize and talk about the books, you can, but you don't have to. So there are international chapters of Silent Book Club. So you can probably find one near you if you're interested. The experience was kind of fun. It was packed, and the seating at this coffee shop was not particularly comfortable. So I think I was a little late, so I was in a folding chair. So there are multiple silent book clubs in my area. So this one just was too popular. Anyway, I'm digressing. Leigh, let's get back to it. This was a short story that was published in, I found two different dates, 1850 and 1855 as a publication date. But this is about, spider web in, God, anyway. Leigh, this is the background. Leigh left home when she was 15 or 16. Leigh left the family rural farm and went to Manchester to become a domestic. And we don't know quite what happened, but she becomes pregnant and is dismissed. She went to a workhouse, left the workhouse very quickly, and it's presumed that she became a prostitute. We jump into the story with her father, who is very critical of her and sort of wrote her off. He died. And so now Lizzie's mother feels free to travel to Manchester to find out what happened to Lizzie. Since this is a short story, I don't really want to say anything about the plot. It is about 30 pages. But it's sort of classic Gaskell in the sense that she is definitely critical of Victorian attitudes. Towards women, there's a subtle criticism of the workhouse and a society that sort of forces young women into prostitution, um, and criticism of the characters, all of whom are male, who are very judgmental of Lizzie and stigmatize her. Um, but I didn't particularly enjoy this, because it just was so melodramatic. Um, the characters were very two-dimensional. It was, again, all the men were very critical of Lizzie, and, she's shameful and we should write her out of the family. And all of the women are sympathetic and we need to help her, not judge her. um, there is a character, Susan Palmer, who is ridiculously saintly, like ridiculous. Um, and the other thing that's annoying, I think, for a lot of readers is there's a total coincidence that is necessary in order to make this plot work. And that I'm usually like, okay, I can accept that and move on. But even I found it um, like, oh, you know, a bit absurd. So this was not what I was hoping for in a Gaskell. So I will keep going. I will keep going and find something better. But this was not it. So those are my two, like, my 5-star fantastic read is The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard. This is a speculative dystopian novel with a time travel element to it. Now, this is a little, do I want to say it's genre bending, or just a great example of the genre? I think I'm going to say this is just a great example of the genre. So we have this isolated little valley where our main character, Odile, lives. And then we have sort of one valley over to the east is exactly 20 years ahead in time. And then one valley to the west is exactly 20 years in the past. And there's a series of valleys, right? So 20 years in the future, 40 years in the future, 60 years in the future, and etc. And the borders of these valleys are protected by armed guards to prevent people from interfering with the timeline. And there's a governing class of people, the Conseil, who periodically grant permission for people to cross over into another valley to observe a loved one. So, there's an example of a couple going back to see their child again before their child dies of disease, kind of a thing. Our main character is Odile, who is a 16-year-old. She's sort of this social outcast. She's very smart, but independent thinker, very studious, and she is selected to begin the vetting process to be a member of the Conseil. And the events in this novel are kicked off when Odile sees two people visiting, clearly are on a supervised visit from East Valley, so 20 years in the future, coming back. And she recognizes that they are the parents of one of her classmates, this boy, Edme, that she is kind of friends with, but that she also has a crush on. And she pieces together, oh my God, he's going to die. That's why they're here. And she also recognizes that if she tries, that he's doomed to die, and that if she tries to interfere with that, that she's going to destroy her own future, if she tries to save him. And Howard is a philosophy PhD, and I think that really shows in this book, because there's a lot of ethical dilemmas, both that Odile is confronting as she's trying to sort out what to do about her own future, as well as Edme and his death. She, as she's training or vetting, I should say, for the Conseil, she's given several ethical dilemmas to sort out. Would you give permission for this person to go, or would you not give them to go and visit the next valley? So I loved the puzzle aspect of this. What would you do? And observing Odile think through but if I did this, here are the consequences. If I did that, here are the consequences, and sort of working through that. I enjoyed that immensely. There's a lot in here, obviously, about memory and regret. It's not a super fast paced. It is very meditative, right? As Odile is exploring and contemplating the nature of time and, the time continuum. But as I will say, as you get towards sort of the climax of this book, the pace picks up, and it becomes sort of gripping, and as things unfold, I was a little like, whoa, this is not where I expected this book to be going. So this was very thoughtful, but a lot of fun too. So again, if you are not like sci-fi fantasy person, this might be a book for you. Again, if that philosophy mental puzzle aspect appeals to you. I really enjoyed this book, and I thought it was great. So super huge, 2 thumbs up, 5 stars, awesome. So that's what I read this week. What do I have going on? I still am reading Zoe Whittall's short stories, Wild Failures. That should be done soon here. I am listening to Henry by Alan Bratton, which is a modern retelling of Shakespeare's Henriade, and I'm really liking that. The Afghan Amulet, which is a somewhat bonkers travelogue by Sheila Paine, and I just started Circus of Wonders, which is sort of my Victober adjacent book. It is a contemporary historical fiction novel set in the Victorian period. I just started it. Yeah, I'll leave it there. So that's what I got going on. My husband and I, we were going to go hiking, and I'm not feeling it. And I'm worried he's going to get sick too. And the last thing you want is like to start to feel sick while you're hiking. That's torture. Or sleeping in the van, in the cold. So I don't know if we're going to go. But it's like high foliage season. So I don't know. We'll see. So that's it. That's what I got going on. Not a whole lot. Check in with you next week. Bye.